need to take up and
Okay, welcome back.
yeah. Yeah. But I mean, see, I have ideas for study. The only problem is I don't trust the method of studying it. That's because I've learned that from experience, not to trust it.
Because you've done it.
Yes. I've done it, got frustrated, pulled out my hair out and ran away.
Oh, it is now. All right, so
Oh,
we,
yeah.
are we ready? Ready?
Yeah. Ready. Oh, I can stand again.
Yay. All right, this is the after, the
Yes, you would chop
second
off
part of the morning session.
Okay. Okay, just shush. Oh, can we turn this, turn the thing on?
The project.
The person who, oh, I refer to an actual object as a thing. You refer to a person as a thing. And I'm the wrong one? You got that right.
No more hot oil in her foot.
Really?
It just comes right
But
out.
can you guys see, maybe see, I mean, if it was somebody else and you had put ice on it, and then after you took off the ice, it would be, you know, it would still be throbbing. But we didn't put any ice at all. In fact, as soon as I got in the car, I put the heat on my foot, and I turned up the heat.
This was like deja vu. Happened to me in a hotel when I was at a conference, and I was first time she said, "Oh my God, you really need to put ice on it." So I did, but it kept coming, and I actually left the conference really.
Yeah, because the cold increases the pain. It doesn't decrease it. It just numbs it, so you don't feel it. The same thing what we were talking about just now. But it doesn't
It's not
solve the
progressing
problem.
healing.
Exactly.
But
It
if
doesn't
you
get rid
alternate-
of the pain.
It's interesting, but if you alternate nice and eat nice, it's like you're forcing circulation in and
If
out.
you just put heat, that will force the circulation.
But it's just, I think it's.
Because the
fair.
cold constricts it,
Mhm.
whereas the heat actually induces the circulation. So it accelerates the healing as opposed to reduce or hinder the healing.
It's the American thing that was a joke before, but it's true. It's like, it's because the football coach is like, ice it, wrap it, so we can get you back on the field running on a damaged foot because it's not swollen, you don't feel it. And then, of course, you're going to block the healing. And that's the logic behind it, is to stop the swelling.
I feel
I
fine
highly
walking around.
recommend you look up the rice model versus what I was talking about before, the meat model, because it's a new thing. The physiology has changed and what they thought has changed.
I know.
What is it called?
What they thought it
Right.
changed. How did it
That's
change?
right.
It didn't change.
Oh, okay.
That's the old model.
So what would you, what is Ayurveda?
We would typically, actually, one of the great, a very good oil that we use for injuries, like sudden injuries, like this, or even more severe ones, is this is like a Malayalam name, by the way, but it is a Muravana.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it. I had some.
I think you have some. I think I've seen it.
Yeah.
So this is a classical formula. It's actually all very Ushna dravyas. It's a very hot oil. Actually, when you apply it on,
So this is
you
for acute injury.
yeah, acute injury. So like ankle twists and sprains and like, you know, bruises and
Not open wound. Or abrasion or
Well,
something.
if it's Ushna,
yes, you can.
No, it won't burn it?
Well, as long as it's not bleeding.
Oh, okay.
As long as it's not bleeding. Yeah. But we use this, typically we would do a pichu with this. So you pour the oil, the warm oil onto a cotton gauze, and you apply that on the ankle, and then you would wrap it. But this is so Ushna, depending on how severe the condition is, you actually don't want to leave it on for more than an hour to 2 hours. After 2 hours, just take it off and kind of wipe it with a warm towel or a cloth or a warm compress, and that's it. So we apply heat because what causes pain? What is the dosha that causes pain? Exactly. So if you apply cold, you're temporarily numbing the sensation of feeling the pain, but you are not getting rid of the pain. In fact, you're enhancing it. You're aggravating it and enhancing it. Yeah, you're aggravating the vata. So instead,
Think of constricting with cold constrict, so you're actually blocking that channel so that when he heats, it opens it out more and there's more pain. So that's why ice is bad.
yes,
Yes.
it causes the vata to get aggravated. Plus, it is constricting. So when you do open it, vata is rushing with the force. So you ever notice, like for instance, when it does thaw out, it comes out like a throbbing pain because vata has not only already is it aggravated because of the injury. Any injury causes aggravation of vata because it causes a break in the flow of prana, right? It causes a break in the flow of vata. So it automatically already aggravates vata. On top of that, you're putting something to constrict it even further. So vata gets aggravated because of the injury itself. Then you put cold on there and you aggravate it even further. So when it does finally melt and it does open up, it rushes. And that's why you end up with the throbbing pain. Because it's with so much force that it's coming.
Where can they get it?
Kotako. Kotako. Oh, KOTTAKKALUSA. And it should be from their website because they deliver faster.
Yeah.
If you order their products from another website, they take forever. But from their website, they deliver fairly quickly.
I've infiltrated my sister's CrossFit. Wow.
This one? Really? They have it? Oh, that's awesome.
Because my sister was using it, and she's like, "Yeah, I brought it to the CrossFit."
Wow, that's
I'm infiltrating.
very nice.
I don't do CrossFit.
I'd like to know what
Anybody
the
who's
ingredients are. Do you have a,
I will send you the ingredients. It's a long list.
okay, long list?
It's a long list. And then we'll go off topic, which is we're already up. Okay. Okay, next slide. So we'll finish this up quickly and then we'll do case studies where we'll break up into groups. And for those of you who are there, I will present a case to you and we are going to discuss. Okay, so you can participate as well. Okay, so this is just to remind you what Madhyama Rogamarga is and the diseases. So again, breast cancer, ovarian, and prostate cancer, it is basically looking at the organs in the Madhyama Rogamarga, which is actually easy way to remember it is muscular organs. Muscular organs are the Madhyama Rogamarga because uterus is a muscular organ.
Oh.
Okay, so that's another kind of little tip to remember. What is the Rogamarga, the Madhyama Rogamarga? Okay, next slide. So another way to look at this, because we talked about it being Pitta Kshaya, Kapha Vata Vriddhi. So just if in general, if you want to look at, because since again this doesn't have a clear correlation with an Ayurvedic disorder or an Ayurvedic name for it, but again we're going according to the signs and symptoms of the aggravated dosha. So in Charaka, he has described, remember we were talking about the 80 types of Vata Vikaras. These are the 20 types of Kapha Vikaras, which are the diseases or signs and symptoms or disorders that is associated with just purely Kapha alone. And if you look at it, so the 20 of them are Tripti, which is a feeling of heaviness, Tandra is drowsiness, Nidra Adikya is excessive sleep, Staimitya, timidness, Guru Gatrata, heaviness of the body, Alasya, sloth, Mukha Madhurya, sweet taste in the mouth, Mukha Srava, excessive salivation. Notice all of these things we've seen again and again over the weekend, and we're going to see it. So the highlighted ones are the ones you do see in PCOS. These are the same symptoms you find with PCOS as well. Okay? So Shleshma Udgirana, mucus expectoration. I've had quite a few clients who tell me this. They're like, I feel so phlegmy. Or when you ask them, they don't come out and tell you that, but you ask the question because you're basically kind of doing a differential diagnosis to find how much of kapha aggravation they have. So you ask these questions. So do you get colds fairly often? How's your immunity? Do you have, do Do you feel like there's a lot of phlegm? Do you feel like your sinuses are blocked? Do you feel like it's more sticky? What's the consistency of your phlegm? All these things you ask typically. But you'll notice that, again, if you start to group them together, or you start to put the symptoms together, then you can see that it is a kapha aggravated condition. So balakshaya, loss of strength, and that happens because of aggravated kapha, not normal kapha. Okay. Apakti, indigestion. Hridaya upaleba, phlegm adhered near the heart, and we will talk more about that in the next module, but that's also there. Kantha upaleba, phlegm in the throat. They feel like it's just coating, or they always keep doing, or they feel like coughing, like something wants to come up. Dhamini pratichaya, which is hardening of the vessels. Galaganda, which is goiter. This is also here. It applies to another disorder we talked about earlier, but also in the same category.
What do you mean hardening of vessels?
Hardening of vessels.
Like which?
Any of them. Any and all. And yes, we would. I know you're like, I want to talk about this is our exact. We are going to concentrate on this in the next one, and it's going to be again very similar, one leading into the next. But we're going to talk about how it starts to target, or it's manifest in the cardiac system. Atistalia, which is obesity. Shita-gnita, which is suppression of Agni. Udarda, which is urticaria, or the ready itching. So you do find a lot of skin disorder or acne related to PCOS.
Yes, you do, yeah. I had one client came in, doing all this stuff, and both the other practitioner and I said, PCOS, and she went to a doctor. Yep.
And
on antibiotics.
And what did they put them on antibiotics for their acne?
Right.
And back in the day, whoever did this, like 10 years ago, or even 12 years ago, or 20 years ago, nobody put anyone on antibiotics for acne.
Right.
And now, even for acne, you get antibiotics.
Or birth control.
Yeah. You got acne, take birth control, and take some antibiotics. Because, if you're an adolescent and having acne, that's just not allowed. You just should not ever have acne, ever.
Is that normal?
It actually is normal.
And the rise.
Yes, it actually, having acne in your adolescence is actually normal. But now it's considered, that is considered abnormal. Whereas taking birth control and antibiotics for acne is not abnormal. Okay? And also Shweta avabhasatva, that is, Shweta is white, so whitish discoloration of the skin, nails, eyes, urine, and stool. Okay? Okay, so next slide. So these are the signs and symptoms of PCOS. Of course, irregular periods. Menstrual intervals last more than 35 days. Excessive androgens, that's elevated levels of male-related hormones leading to male characteristics.
Like the excessive hair on the chin.
Yes. Polycystic ovaries, that means there will be this fluid-filled sacs, usually more than one, that's in the ovaries that surrounds the eggs. Obesity or weight gain, fatigue, infertility. It can be primary infertility or even secondary infertility. So which means primary infertility is if they've never had a child and because of this it's causing infertility, or even in certain women who've already had a child and then start to develop hypothyroidism or start to develop PCOS, and then they can't conceive again because they have this condition. Okay, so secondary means they've already had a child and then they can't have another one, or they're not able to conceive the first time. Okay, so it can be both situations, but I've seen it in both situations. I've seen it more in the primary one, which is very common, and I've also seen it in the secondary and of course, acne. Mood changes, mood swings, and anxiety or depression, which is, again, remember, that's a causative factor as well as it becomes a symptom, then it just makes it worse. And it keeps going. Headaches, it can even develop into migraines, sleep issues, insomnia, or poor sleep. And these are the ones that we know to be associated with PCOS. And as we have seen before, this is very much the symptoms of aggravated kapha.
So we would give them in the West, we would give them antibiotics for their acne, antidepressants for their mood changes.
Yep.
Give them that for,
So if from
have
this
one,
list, you
probably
can
four or
do
five
4 or 5
That was
medicines.
A new client I had 4 weeks ago.
yeah, all of that. Right.
Next slide.
And on some kind of drink to lose weight.
Oh no, they'll just put them directly on like Lipitor or something like that. So the chikitsa for this, from the Ayurvedic perspective, and this is, I first just wanted to include here the general line of treatment for kapha-related disorders, and that's looking at it broadly, okay? So typically they advise that you should use herbs that are predominant in katu, tikta, and kashaya, because those are the tastes that we know to pacify kapha. It should be predominant in gunas such as ushna, ruksha, and lekhaniya, which means, again, it's removing or scraping or getting rid of that plaque. Therapies such as swedana, vamana, and nasya. So, of course, we want to do swedana, but we also want to, if we have to remove the excess kapha from the body, vamana is one of the best ways.
And swedana of the dry kind.
Yes, swedana of the dry kind. Now, if you're doing it alone, if you're just doing a therapy without doing a shodhana, then swedana of the dry kind. If you're planning to do it, the swedana along with a shodhana, as it is a purva karma for a shodhana, then it can be of the moist. Because what needs to happen is the kapha needs to melt, and it needs to go back to the GIT so it can be pushed out. So in that way, we actually want to excite the kapha. We want it to get aggravated. We want it to move, so we need the moisture.
So in a panchakarma.
Yes, in a panchakarma, you want to do moist. But if you're doing it as a standalone sort of a palliative measure, and then it has to be of the dry kind.
So the dry paste, vartana,
The sand.
the sand poultice, or sauna
Yeah, or a sauna. Yeah.
without moisture.
And that, of course, if you went with the Swedana, Vamana, and Nasya, you would make sure that you've already increased Agni prior to that.
Yes, that's a whole panchakarma process. Right. This is looking at it broadly. Now, if we want to look at these specifically, then that also has a procedure. Yes, it has a procedure. And kapha pacifying food and activities, and here, of course, exercise. And if there is aggravated kapha without an aggravation of vata, then you can do rigorous exercise. That is indicated. However, if there is not an aggravation of vata, then you do not want to do excessive exercise. Name of oil, please. Of what? Which oil? Muravena?
And then I texted it to them.
Oh, okay.
Who was that?
That was Pam, but I think that was, I
A
didn't,
while ago.
okay.
And she just asked, she wanted to know more about how would you suggest we do, it came out banana. But she meant to write vamana.
Okay, since you are interested in this, and we are not restricted that we can't do it, but I would really suggest first observe what it's like to do a vamana before advising or before doing it on one of your clients.
And there's a whole procedure.
There is a
to it,
whole
but-
procedure, but if you like, we could definitely make this one of the webinars, and I would be happy to explain to you what is the whole procedure of doing a vamana. Okay? Okay? So we can do that because actually there have been studies done to see the effectiveness of doing Vamana in the treatment of PCOS. Okay, and they've had very good results with it because it is primarily a kapha disorder. And even though it's a kapha disorder that's here, by removing the excess kapha in your body, if you can excite it and even getting out from this area, it automatically brings it back into balance. And this is the concept that sometimes can be a little bit difficult to accept because we're looking at, oh, well, it's located here, and this is happening here, and then how can you do this, and it'll affect here. But again, it's the systems approach. It is one system. Just like the Jataragni is here, and it is affecting and regulating all of the Tattva Agnis all over the body. Similarly, Kapha this is its domain. If you want to manage kapha that is somewhere else in the body, you can actually manage it from here. That's why Vamana is the best method of doing Shodhana or expelling out excess kapha from the body, even if it is located somewhere else. Yeah.
Would you guys potentially think about, and maybe you have down the road, doing like a week-long experientially based, if you have the right place, kind of Panchakarma, training experientially, where everybody gets together and go through all the, 5 karmas.
Well, not every week, we can't do all the 5 karmas, but we.
If we went to India.
If we went to India, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe
Oh, no, we want to, we've been talking about it, and for the advanced students, because it would be very specific, there would be additional training, and we could be at a facility where you could learn these things.
And then I can actually be considered as a real MD to do these things without no restrictions, because I do have a license to do this.
You can visit your husband.
He should be here by then.
Yeah.
He has to be here by then.
We'll wait till probably 2018 or something, because we want the other class to participate if they want to.
I agree. It's I've never done Panchakarma because again, I'm leading to that point, but have to figure out what's the best venue. But all of these things, in order to suggest to someone like that client that had colitis, and I know she's going to India in the summer, it's like plant the seed so that she could inform herself, and that will be a benefit for her. But even for myself, I don't, like, some people are visual learners. I'm definitely a physical learner, so I have to kind of experiment on myself to know how something reacts.
We'll later it out.
When I had that dinner last night, he said, not everybody needs Panchakarma. So for any of us to say, oh, I want to learn more about this, I want to experience it, we could harm ourselves. If you don't need Panchakarma, you don't do it just to learn, you could actually jam it. Well, I think I would need it.
I think you would need it too.
So I'm working with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you could definitely benefit from it. And we can, it could be made in such a way that it's not. Now, even in Panchakarma, there is, depending on which karma, for which dosha, for what situation, it can be done in a mild manner, or it can be done in an aggressive manner.
Right.
And this is the thing where it, then now the lines started to blur, where people are going and saying, I want to do Panchakarma.
Right.
So now these doctors are like, well, we have to do it because they're asking for it. So they do the mild version. But even in that too, what you said was, what you brought up, the point is that even if in a mild version, if you don't have something to push out, then you're pushing out the healthy stuff that your body does need. And then that does create a problem. That's why there are so many people who come back with not so great experiences of Panchakarma. It's because maybe they didn't need it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so the specific Vishesha Chikitsa, Samanya, by the way, Samanya means general, Vishesha means specific. Okay, so Samanya Chikitsa, general line of treatment for kapha disorders. Vishesha Chikitsa, specifically for menstrual disorders of kapha origin, Here also, of course, we want to increase the Agni, Deepanapachana. And I did not fill in what I included that because you have a long list. And please use your intuition and your experience, okay? So you can pick and choose what you want to use for Deepanapachana. Second, you want to do Shroto Shodhana herbs, formulas that are specifically Kaphahara. And most of the formulas that are Shroto Shodhana or that cleanse the channels are automatically Kaphahara, okay? So that which pacifies Kapha, that which cleanses the Shrotas, and which also induces Vata Anulomana. Because remember, this is situated in the Vata place of the body. So you do want to induce, or you do want to make sure that you keep the Vata moving down. So a good example of this is Kanchanada Gugulu. Another really good example is Chandraprabha Gugulu. Okay? Because, and this one works really well when there are more signs of Vata Vikriti or Vata aggravation. So for instance, if they have this issue where there's more amount of pain, you were asking what is the Ayurvedic anti-inflammatory or the Ayurvedic painkiller. This one is one of the best Ayurvedic painkillers. So when you have someone who's presenting with this, but with more of this Vata aggravated equals pain, then Chandraprabha Gugulu, which is basically Chandraprabha Vati, or Chandraprabha Guliga, or Chandraprabha tablet. Remember we had this discussion yesterday. They all mean the same thing. So, but it's called Chandraprabha Gugulu because it is a Gugulu preparation. And this is there again in the notes from the last module. So where you would want to choose one over the other, Kanchanada Gugulu works really well, again, on endocrine system, in regulating hormones, in cleansing the channels, allowing for proper flow and getting the cycle back on track. And Chandraprabha also does the same thing, but it does help when there is more of that Vata predominance. When there's more of Kapha predominance, you choose Kanchanada Gugulu. When there is more of the Vata signs in the same condition, then you choose Chandraprabha Gugulu. Okay? Next slide. And that can be taken with other herbs that we do know to be used for, that are good for the reproductive system in women, or that's good for the uterus. And that includes, like, for instance, Ashoka or Shatavari. These are all herbs that we know to be very good. Ashoka is one of the best herbs for women's health. Okay, there's a question.
Would there be a case to take both at the same time?
Chandraprabha and Kanchanada? No, probably wouldn't need to. It would be too much. And they both have a fairly similar action, so it really wouldn't make sense to take both. Instead, you could just increase the dose of one. Instead of taking both at the same time, just increase the dose of that one. So instead of taking one Kanchanada and one Chandraprabha, just take two Kanchanada or two Chandraprabha. Right? So in case of, and what you pick which one is again according to the predominance of how much more of Kapha. So to be even more specific or even more clear about that, for instance, if the person is more obese and they have more of the snigdhata, they have more of the issues of Kapha, more of the lack of energy and foggy brain, and even they are starting to develop cysts, more number of cysts, or they have found that they are developing cysts in other parts of the body or other kinds of lumps. So you can, this is another way you want to look for those like lipomas and stuff. It's not just Kapha only here. It's going to be Kapha everywhere. So that's where you want to look for it systemically as well. So look for it to see if there is more amount of Kapha symptoms. That's when Kanchanada is preferred. If it is the same sort of thing, but they are also exhibiting Vata type of symptoms, like there's more pain, or they have arthritic pain, or they have constipation. The constipation is very chronic. They have, when they do end up getting their periods, for both cases, it will be very dry. Sometimes it looks almost like ash, or not ash. It looks like kind of like powdery.
Have you guys ever seen this? I know it sounds weird and stuff like it, but
It's clumpy and it comes out looking like dried blood. It doesn't even come out looking like wet blood. It comes out looking like dry blood. Yeah, it's like cookie crumbs. Yeah, it looks like it's just dry blood that has just come out. It's not even wet, or it's barely wet. So in that case, it indicates more amount of vata, and so in that case, the Chandraprabha will be preferred. Okay.
interesting that the name of Chandra, that's moon and related to the lunar cycle.
Yeah, and it helps to balance or maybe nourish or keep back the normal, healthy Soma Chandra quality in the body instead of making it excessive or abnormal. It's another question.
No.
No, okay. Okay, so localized treatments or localized cleansing for this is also advised. You can do here, Triphala Kashaya. So our Triphala Kashaya works.
Well trained.
Yes, well trained. So typically for this one, if you want to, you can it's probably best to put it in a muslin cloth and then make it, because you do not want to have gritty kashaya to use.
That's also called Basti.
It is called Uttaravasti. Yes, it is. It is called Uttaravasti. So it is a type of Basti, but it is not the regular Basti, it's the Uttaravasti. There's no issues. Well, we're not administering the douche. The douche the person can do themselves. Because it's a whole different way
Give
of,
them their little tea bag,
yes.
and they can make their own.
And they use the same sort of flint bottle that you would use for fleet. Yes, fleet thing.
Right.
The fleet bottle, they can use that for the douche. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Is there a process for withholding, or is it just an in and out kind
No,
of?
no,
no, it's an in and out.
You can't hold it.
No, you
right?
can't.
Do it in the, stay in the tub and warm
Yeah.
water, or?
I do it in the tub. Because
Yeah.
If you can lay down, it's a little easier.
Yeah.
Not really, but.
It's easier cleanup.
Yeah.
yeah. But Triphala Kashaya it's actually very commonly used for washing of areas where there is abnormal excess kapha, or even for infections, or for instance, if there is
Good for
pus.
yeast infection.
Yes. It's good for any kind of infection. So that is why, in fact, even in our anal rectal clinic, we used to use Triphala Kashaya as an enema to cleanse the area after. So the day we would do the procedure, and afterwards, as this mass is drying up and about to fall off, it starts to create this exudate. So we need to make sure we keep the area clean so it doesn't cause another infection. So we keep them there and let them stay there for a day or two. And every day we cleanse the area with Triphala Kashaya wash. So we wash we actually do like you would do a water soap enema. Instead of using water and soap, we use Triphala Kashaya, and we do just a regular enema, not in the sense of the regular Vasti that we do, but just for washing out that area.
Daily or?
No, this was for the instance, for the example of doing it for the anal rectal clinic where we're.
Oh, right.
But I mean, you can do this, yes. So for a person who has this, you can ask them to do it anywhere between 3 to 4 times a week. If they can do it daily, great. Most likely, they're probably not going to want to. And also, if it's done daily, it can probably induce a little bit of dryness as well. So you don't want to do it daily. Again, a good example. If it is more kapha predominant, Triphala Kashaya. If it is more vata predominant, then takra. Because takra is equally reducing of vata, but it's not, kapha, but it's not drying. So if the person does have more vata symptoms or is vata prakriti, takra is preferred because it will still address the issue without drying out vata further. And most likely women who are vata prakriti or have more of an aggravation of vata, they tend to have this issue with dryness in their vagina, and they have this issue with you know, like painful intercourse, and that sort of thing. So,
Doing,
chakra. Yeah, you can do it.
So what is the timing on it, was a question, how often, I know you just said about the triplet.
3 to 4 times a week.
and you generally don't do it on a newer hormone. Is that, do you follow that rule, or
No, not really.
like prostitutes shouldn't be done on those moon days just because of the difference in energy and the
Well, you want to,
discontinuity of a Panavayu? You know,
It can affect, but I mean, at this stage where it is see, if it is a healthy person, you can follow those rules because it does make a difference. But in a disease condition where the disease is strong, it is stronger, it's very deep, it's fairly deep-seated, then these more subtle impressions, you won't be able to feel it because the disease is there. So if you were doing, for instance, doing a douche in a healthy person to maintain health, which you can do, a Triphala Kashaya douche once a month or once, depending on what's going on, you can do that for maintenance of health as well. And if it's a healthy woman doing it for maintenance of health, that's when you want to avoid those sort of things. But in a disease condition, we need to, it wouldn't have the same impact.
Kaya had said something, she was asking how often. I've heard many controversies around douching. The doctor she worked with used a neem douche.
Yeah, you can absolutely use a neem douche. But neem, the one difference is neem is strong. And another thing is neem works really well in pacifying pitta. So it's preferred in pitta predominant disorders as opposed to kapha predominant disorders. Neem works really well. Even if you use it for a kapha predominant disorder, it's usually pitta kapha. So that's when you would choose neem over triphala. But in this situation, since you do have, it's predominantly kapha and be some vata, the only reason you want to choose triphala over sakra is if the person has vata, an aggravation of vata. Because
No,
sakra is,
triphala over chakra would be aggravation of kapha.
yes, triphala is for aggravation of kapha, sakra
Sakra
is
is
for
aggravation of
predominant of vata. And cow's urine and triphala kashaya, you can mix. And that's like a really chronic case where there is multiple cysts. In fact, this combination is indicated for even different types of like uterine cancers and other types, arbuda, where it is not just a growth or it's just not an accumulation, but it's been sitting there for a period of time and starting to build up and starting to become a malignancy. Yes, yeah. So in fact, for like different types of tumors or different types of cancers, they actually use cow's urine because it is very strong, very penetrating. So the cow's urine and triphala kashaya is used in those very advanced stages. But the cow's urine one we've actually done because when we get cases in India, they tend to be very, very far gone by the time they get to us because they've tried everything else. And if they feel like they've tried everything and it still hasn't worked, then, you know, why not? Let's try Ayurveda too. So
oh, it's easy.
it's easy.
The way
Pamela will be the right person to tell you how to collect cow's urine. For the cow's urine, also you want to collect the morning's first urine of the cow.
How do you know?
You give a bucket to a farmer and you tell them to keep it
It's
there.
a her
And
cow, right?
yeah.
Because I could.
Is it
gotta be a
usually
girl
female
cow?
or is it, does it matter?
Bull or
No, a cow, not a bull.
okay, so girl
Girl.
So cow, yeah. cow
Why,
is-
but boy cows are bulls. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's a
Girl.
girl cow.
Heifer.
Yes.
And you can probably.
And it's the morning's first urine. And people, if
Okay.
And get up with her.
Okay.
And have your jar ready.
All right.
jar, no, you need a bucket. It's not a
Big jar, big jar.
Big-
Half gallon.
You need a bucket. Because if you're gonna get, and there's farms.
We'll do that
There's
in
a farm.
India.
Yes, we will do
Oh,
that
there
in
you
India.
go.
We can do that in India. And you know, Pamela will tell you that it's not that hard to collect. You can eat, you know, if you have a farmer that you know that's nearby that do have cows, it's very easy for them to get you cow's urine. And when, by the way, that also comes with a disclaimer that if you're collecting the cow's urine, you do want to use it within 4 hours of collecting it. Yeah, you don't want to let that it starts to change. So you don't want to use it after 4 hours. So you collect it within around 4 hours, you do want to use it. Now, of course, this sort of thing is something you can, you know, if you're going to do it with a client, or if you're going to advise it for a client, you don't expect the client to go and collect the cow's urine. You know, you want to be able to supervise them and do that. And of course, again, it is indicated in such a severe condition where you would need to monitor that. I just wanted to put it out there so you know that this is used for this sort of condition. It may not always be so practical to do that, but doesn't mean you shouldn't know. You know, it's something that is available and that is fairly easy to get and is very effective. So just so you know. And if you would like to do that, then you'd have to figure out the logistics of being able to do that.
But if you had it, is it like 50-50?
Yeah, it's around a 1-to-1 ratio.
I just want to say, when you got your bucket ready, don't hold it with the opening straight up from the start.
Yeah.
Because the trajectory isn't straight.
Yes, absolutely. Thank
The
you.
trajectory.
It's this way, and then you collect it
Right.
the other way. So and then you gradually put it down.
Right.
That's done.
Been around some cows.
Yes.
Yep.
How about collecting the fresh dung? Urine is one thing. Dung is a whole other story.
I mean, not off the ground.
No, not off
As
the
it
ground.
comes out.
Like, yeah, waiting for it to come out.
Well, you could do it like with the, you know, like in the city,
we
how
do
they
with
do it with horses.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
have a little
With the
bag
and
that
then a little
hangs
bag.
around them.
See, it's not that hard. Okay, we can also use what's also indicated for this is Barley's, which are like vaginal suppositories. As I was writing this, I put suppositories. I was like, wait a minute, I should put vaginal suppository. Otherwise, you think it goes in the other way. So it is a vaginal suppository, which is basically, it can be made from the herbs and a liquid and made into a suppository on its own, or you can actually have it as soak a tampon or a cotton gauze, not the regular tampons, but like cotton gauze made into like a tampon. It's soaked with guduchi, very similar to like pichu, but pichu in the vaginal canal. So the tampon is soaked with guduchi tela, and that's because guduchi actually is very good for pacifying vata, but kapha as well. It equally helps to pacify kapha. So guduchi tela works quite well in this situation. Another easily available, but maybe, yes, I know you're already twisting your face.
I know, 'cause I'm just thinking, like, that would hurt.
Is mustard oil and sunflower oil. And yes, it does depend on the person's sensitivity. You can choose the ratio of how much of mustard oil to sunflower oil. But the purpose of it is it should be an oil that is ushna, that reduces kapha. Okay? So even though it's in an oil form, because the oil form does get absorbed through, that's why it helps to give it that extra effect. The oil will get absorbed through, and it still needs to be able to reduce kapha and help to break up that accumulation. Because ideally, the cysts it is an accumulation. So that's what you want to be able to break up that accumulation so that it can easily. Another good action of the oil-soaked tampon is that it also lubricates the structure, lubricates the channel. So as you're breaking it up, it can easily flow out. Because that's another issue with this condition is it's not just accumulating, but it's also not flowing out. So you do have to, it's a subtle balance of pacifying or reducing kapha as well as reducing vata. And so that in order to reduce vata, the best thing actually is some form of oil or some form of unctuousness, snigdhata. So you can choose a snigdhata that also reduces kapha at the same time. Right? That's why guruchi adi taila, or mustard and sunflower oil are good options. Okay? And of course, the diet, you want a kapha reducing diet. And I know that sounds so generic. But in more specifically than the generic kapha reducing diet is that turmeric works very well because it is an anti-inflammatory, it is an antibiotic, antiseptic, and it does actually help to
I
mildly.
wondered how long you leave the tampon there.
Typically, you want to do it for about an hour or two, and you can do the tampon if since it's an oil-soaked tampon. You can do a tampon and then do the douche, which is like a sneha sweda. It can be done in that manner, or if the person doesn't have time, which is usually the case, then they can put it in, say, at night, probably. I would say for an hour before bedtime, so that before they go to sleep, they take it out. Okay. So kapha reducing diet specifically, which works really well in this condition, is turmeric. Takra, of course. Another reason why takra works internally, apart from just the local application of it, but taking it internally, is takra always helps to maintain the movement and the clarity of the channels. So that's why it apart from just addressing the issue, the localized issue, but you do want to make sure it's systemically everything is cleansed and it keeps moving. Okay. Of course, barley, because we've seen barley is like the highlight of the weekend food-wise. So barley really helps to reduce kapha. It also helps to keep things moving down. It does have a mild anulomana effect.
Would you recommend using barley as the grain component in khichdi?
Yeah.
Or like,
Yeah. It tastes kind of nice.
mungis and mung.
Yeah, you can use, so Sharon is suggesting that you can use barley instead of rice to make your khichdi, which I think is a great idea. Yeah. Or use barley as your grain, as the grain for the person. Diet. Madhu, of course, honey, again, similar action as you find in diabetes, as you find in hypothyroidism. Here also, madhu will help to keep the kapha moving, not allowing it to accumulate, and cleansing of the channels. And also another natural antibiotic and antiseptic. Okay, hot water and lime, cleansing of the channels.
Why
Increasing
lime over
the-
lemon? In this case? I think of lime as being not as hot as lemon.
I think limes are, well, original
Is
limes.
this India lime?
Yes, not the hybrid limes.
Here would we use
Here we
lemon?
had lemon and lime.
Yes, but the limes you get are hybrid limes.
Right.
The real limes, like kaffir limes, it's like a real, an organic lime is, it's actually much more ushna. Yeah, it's more ushna than a lemon. Lemon is slightly sweet, whereas limes are very sour.
So, all right, so I'm a little confused. So the limes we get here, I always get organic limes, so those are ushna, I shouldn't.
They are ushna. The limes are sweeter than the lemons.
Yeah.
Limes were cooler. Yeah, I always thought limes were cooler and better for pitta. Right. That's what I've been taught.
But I think American limes and American lemons are very different than the
Yeah.
Indian
Then they-
lime.
I think backwards. I thought.
Yes, they are. That's why I wanted to know that.
Because the American limes are like considered as jambira. There's a variety. There are varieties of limes, and the American lime is the jambira variety of lime, and that tends to be the one that has more amount of the citronella oil or the oil in limes. They're more oily compared to the Indian limes. The smaller limes don't have as much oil, the oily component in it. Whereas the larger the lime, the more of the oily component it has in it. So it still is fairly sour. Now, organic limes should be sour, like tangy sour. You eat it and it makes you like that thing. As opposed to lemons have a slight sweeter taste to it. So there's more of a balance of the sour and sweet taste in a lemon compared to a lime that has a predominant sour taste. That's how it should be. It should be a sour taste, like tangy. So you take a little bit and it makes your taste buds pop and saliva starts popping out. Like some people, you can actually see it pop out of their mouth. Saliva.
It's enough talk, it's already.
I was from that anyway, a little too.
You're really a lime loving person, aren't you? Okay, next time I'll bring you a bottle of lime pickle. Are you a lime pickle person?
I have.
So hot water and lime, because another reason I put this in there because this is a classical reference and they refer to it as lime because they didn't use lemon. So that's another reason why I put lime instead of lemon. Okay. Another actual thing that we can adapt here is garlic milk. And I know when we made the garlic milk, it was quite thick, but the garlic milk is a processed version or a cooked version of the milk. So though it is in a milk media, you still don't get the excessive snigdhata of the milk, okay? So the caution I would say here is use the garlic milk when you have more of the vata predominant signs and symptoms in PCOS. Because the garlic does help. The sulfur in the garlic and the garlic itself is very good in pacifying kapha as well as vata. It actually is a herb that is not widely known for, but is very good and conducive to female reproductive health. Because they say sulfur is actually the rajas of Parvati, or the female goddess, or Shakti, or the female entity, energy in the world. The rajas, or the menstrual product or fluid of the female entity, is actually sulfur. That's why sulfur has so many medicinal properties. And sulfur is the rajas component that comes out. That's why sulfur also has a lot of heat in it. It exhibits more of the pitta qualities of the rajas, because it is the, remember the pitta stage, the byproduct that comes out. So sulfur works really, really well. Anything that has high sulfur.
So asafetida would be a good herb.
Yes.
What about black salt?
Yeah.
Black salt.
Yeah. Cool. And this is actually that part comes in from where we look at even just using mineral sulfur for different conditions. But sulfur has that quality. So garlic, which is very high sulfur content, is quite useful for reproductive disorders for women. Okay, next slide. We're almost done with this.
And then I think we should break for lunch a little early.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
We have that on the schedule anyway.
Yeah. So the next one is Shatapushpa, which is the dill powder. And there's a controversy between Shatapushpa being fennel or dill, but it's quite similar. Fennel seeds. But Shatapushpa we used last time. So in this condition, or in this situation, we're using the Shatapushpa as the variety of dill seeds. So you can use, and the qualities of this is that it is Katu Tikta Rasa, so ideal in this situation. Laghu Tikshna, Virya is Ushna, Vipaka is Katu, Dosha Karma Kapha Vata Hara. Okay, so this can be given as a powder mixed with ghee, 5 grams mixed with ghee after food, after each meal, so 3 times a day. And they should take this daily for around 2 to 3 months, because this actually helps. It's something really simple that is, again, available everywhere. And the reason why it's 2 to 3 months is because this helps in regulating, again, the cycle. And since one cycle itself is 1 month, we want to try to have it permeate through that once it does get regulated, to keep it regulated. So that's why it's not something that can be taken for a small, shorter period of time. That's good to remember when you're even advising for other formulas as well, or other herbs as well, when it comes to the menstrual cycle. It actually needs to, the time period for advising any of the internal herbs or medicines is that it has to be taken for a minimum of 1 month, observe the changes, and let it go on for at least 2 months. So a minimum of 2 months. So if it is corrected within 1 month, to maintain it through the second month. If it is not maintained within 1 month, then it needs to keep going till the second month, and then reassess if it needs to go till the third month. Okay? So that is included for Kanchanada Gugulu, and that is also included for Chandraprabha Gugulu. Okay? So remember that time of 2 to 3 months applies to anything that you would be advising, because it is that cycle, it is that time, so we need to maintain that. Okay? And of course, I didn't put Ashoka in here, but Ashoka is something that you all know very well. Ashoka is Saraca indica. I believe so.
And do the same thing, make it powder with.
Ashoka you get, and Ashoka I believe is this in the women's health. So for instance, if you have Ashoka Arishta is very useful to be used. Ashoka Arishta is the fermented or the alcoholic preparation of Ashoka, and with some.
You just said you mix that with ghee. You don't make a decoction of it. You
No.
just
You
mix it
can
in.
mix the powder with ghee. Yeah. So it'll be harder. You could actually make the pills with the ghee, but to grind that will take a really
So
long
you don't
time.
have to make a decoction. What's your
No.
question? It's just powder mixed in with the
Powder with
ghee, and the ghee is just the anapon.
Yes.
Powder.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can buy Ashoka Karista on Amazon.
Ashoka Arishta. Yeah, it is available. Cortical has it. And yeah, it is available. Is it the botanical name, Saraca indica?
It is.
Yes. Oh, good, I got it.
What do we call it?
We call it Ashoka.
Do you think that using a coffee grinder burns or burnishes or changes a seed when you're grinding it in some way that's not good?
To some extent, if it had, yes, because some of these seeds do have volatile oils, and depending on the size of your coffee grinder and the speed at which it moves, if it can sometimes start to heat up and release those oils. And you'll notice that when you grind it, because then the powder starts to clump together, because it's releasing the oil, so that's why it's clumping instead of becoming a fine powder. So yes, your coffee grinder can do that.
So if you pulse it, to
If
kind
you
of watch
pulse it,
carefully.
You have to pulse it. What I usually do is I pulse it, and I also check to see if it's sticking to the middle.
Right.
Because if it's sticking to the middle, it's heating up too much, it's releasing the oil, and the oil is causing it to clump up. So I usually do is I pulse it and then stop, and pulse and stop and pulse. And sometimes it takes a while, but at least it'll be then a fine powder without actually destroying the properties
Okay.
of it. Okay,
So let's
and we're done with.
pause.
So this is all of our information for PCOS. Okay, and if you have questions, we can save it because we're going to break for lunch, but we will come back and we are going to discuss cases. Okay?
So we're going to come back at 1, you all.
No.
And I'm going to send you a new invitation I'll send it out right now. So